Ladies and gentlemen, here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Lincoln City Council meeting of August 31st.
Microphone.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the City Council meeting of August 31st, 2020. In accordance with LB 898, please be advised that a copy of the Opens Meeting Act is posted in the back of the chamber by the northwest door. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a brief period of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, the order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda under public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The applicant and those in favor should speak first, then those opposed. The applicant may then make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating their name, address, and whether you are speaking in favor or in opposition of the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all the public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last Mondays of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on any issue not on the agenda for that date, nor plan for a future agenda. Will the clerk please call the roll in the first item of business?
A few announcements here before our agenda. In addition to having our public comment in the council chambers, there will be a webinar that will be available for public comment for the City Council meeting held today, August 31st, 2020. For those who wish to testify by webinar, you must register with the City Clerk's office to participate. Please contact the City Clerk's office at 402-441-7436 or by email at cityclerk@lincoln.ne.gov. City Clerk's office must be notified by noon the day of the meeting, and in order to register, please provide your name, address, email information, and contact number. If you have any other concerns you wish to express to the City Council, please email them to councilpacket@lincoln.ne.gov. If you still wish to appear in person on an item on the agenda, you may come to the County City Building at 555 South 10th Street. Limited seating is available in the council chambers, or you may wait in the Bill Luxford studio or in the hallway until your item is called. Then you can enter the council chambers and come up to the podium. After you are finished speaking, we do ask that you exit the chambers to the door to your immediate left. You can also view the meetings on our YouTube channel and our Facebook.com. Our first item for today's agenda is our consent agenda, sections 1 and 2.
Is there anyone wishing to address an item on the consent agenda? Yes, come on up. Leach.
Mr. Chair, members of the council, my name is Lowell Berg. I'm the current president of our library board, and I'm here today. I'm pleased to introduce you to Jackie Osterwicki, who is on your consent agenda to be our newest library board member. Jackie?
Yay. Yay.
Thank you. I'm really excited to join this group and excited to be here and support the city and its citizens through the next 7 years.
Well, thank you for putting your name forward and being able to help. Anybody have any questions for Jackie? Seeing none, thank you for coming down.
Yay. These are good.
Hold it.
They had to fight the task.
Good afternoon, council members. David Carey, Director of the Planning Department. I'm pleased to introduce Peter Hind as our appointee to the Urban Design Committee. Peter is a registered architect and comes with several years of great experience and will be a great asset to our committee.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to do this. I was on the committee for a few years when I was an associate professor at the university and enjoyed the work very much and look forward to jumping back in and helping out as much as I can.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you for giving us your time and talents and treasure.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Well, council members, I'd like to introduce Lee Kramer, who's going to join us by video. She goes. Lee got her BA in Global Studies from UNL. She's on the board of Contra Casa, which helps impoverished Guatemalan families. She's co-chair of the New Americas Task Force. She's employed by the Asian Community Center and formerly worked for the Nebraska Appleseed and currently works for the Asian Community Center. So we're pleased to introduce you to Lee. Yay. Lee, would you like to say a couple words?
I think you're on mute.
I'm muted. Okay. Thank you for having me today. I work at the Asian Community and Cultural Center with our seniors program. And so I've had the privilege of working with immigrants and refugees, seniors who are often not served as frequently. And so it's a pleasure to be able to share with this board, hopefully, their experiences and to connect them more with the community. So I hope to be able to do that, and just thankful for the opportunity, hopefully, to do this. So.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, another appointee is Tammy Burton Fiker. Tammy has a master's degree in public administration from UNO. She's a licensed medical nutrition therapist. She volunteers for the People's Health Clinic, Matt Talbot Kitchen, and NAACP, and we're real pleased. She adds a great value to our advisory council.
Okay. Thank you all for allowing me to do this. I'm excited. My area is most definitely gerontology, because we need to I'm getting there as well, so I know I want good quality health care and nutrition care. So thank you. I'm honored to be doing this.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
You're not quite there yet.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who'd like to come forward on any of the consent items on our agenda? Seeing none, we move on to vote on the consent items.
Item 1A, reappointing Dan Marvin, Eric Buchanan, and Janice Walker to the Community Health Endowment Board of Trustees for terms to expire September 1st, 2023, introduced by Ward.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Christensen. Any questions, comments? Do we have to put Dan on this or not? I mean, just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Bowers?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item number 2, appointing Jacqueline Ostrowicki to the Lincoln City Library Board for a term to expire August 31st, 2027, introduced by Ward.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any questions, comments?
I would just like to comment that the library board had quite an extensive list of very well qualified candidates, and I think they've done a wonderful job.
Yes. Ditto. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1C, appointing Peter Hine to the Urban Design Committee for a term to expire February 1st, 2022, introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Christensen. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Christensen?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1D, appointing Lee Kramer to the Aging Partners Area-Wide Advisory Council for a term to expire June 30th, 2023, introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any comments, questions? Please call the roll.
Bowers?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1E, appointing Tammy Burton Fiker to the Aging Partners Area-Wide Advisory Council for a term to expire June 30th, 2021, introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Christensen. Any questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Bowers?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1F is application of Lancaster County Agricultural Society, Inc., doing business as Lancaster Event Center, to temporarily expand its Class CK liquor license to an additional outdoor area measuring 280 feet by 500 feet at 4100 North 84th Street, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
And moved and seconded by Councilperson Ward. Any questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. That ends our consent agenda. We can move on to section 4, which is our public hearing liquor resolutions. I'll be calling items 4A and 4B together. Application of Arceos LLC, doing business as Agave Mexican Grill, for a Class I liquor license, and the related manager application of Abram Morales, located at 1631 P Street. You raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you really believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, council members, my name is David Watermeyer. I'm an attorney here in Lincoln, and I represent Abram Morales, who is also here today and present for this presentation, standing in the back on the right, or your right, my left. The application that's before the council is for the opening of a new restaurant, and I'm sure most of you will remember what used to be there. It was La Mexicana, Mexican restaurant, and grocery store as well. That place burned down, I think, in 2014? 14. In any event, Mr. Morales has invested quite a sum of money to rebuild there on half of that property that burned down. And so Arceos LLC is going to open up a new Mexican restaurant and grill at that location. As I'm sure you all know, Mr. Morales also has other restaurants here in town. He has El Toro, he has Mazatlan, Mazatlan 2, and Las Margaritas. So he's experienced in this field. His restaurants are successful, they're well managed, and we don't see that this location will be any different than those that he already runs and operates. Mr. Morales will also be the manager for the liquor license at that location as he is in the others. So essentially we're asking the council to approve the application so that beer and margaritas can be served with chips and salsa and burritos and enchiladas.
Okay, 6 o'clock and you start talking about that. Okay. Yeah, I know. Do we have any questions for Mr. Watermeyer?
How soon?
Abram, you can maybe answer that.
We're talking about about 3 weeks now.
Good.
Yeah, the application is obviously before the
Just in time for football season.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you for coming down.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Mhm.
Our next item, I'll be calling together item 4C and 4D. Application of Me Mexico Lindo LLC, doing business as Me Mexico Lindo, for a Class C liquor license, and the related manager application of Claudia L. Freeman, located at 8222 Holdridge Street, Suite 10.
Good afternoon. My name is Claudia Freeman.
Now raise your right hand. Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you really believe it to be?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Claudia Freeman, Freeman, and I work for restaurant industry for many, many years, and I'm so excited to open my own restaurant to sell beers, margaritas, and food, enchiladas, burritos, tostadas, and
Yummy, yummy, yummy.
Yes.
Oh, we're gonna get. Well, thank you for coming down. Appreciate it. Do we have any questions?
I have one question. On your application, I see that you have a spouse, but they did not say that they weren't going to be involved in the business. So I'd like to know, how will Julio be involved in the business?
Yes, my husband, he is here. Yes, I decided to apply just my own, but he's kind of gonna be help me in the restaurant,
Okay.
and I be the owner. So,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
When?
Thank you so much.
When?
Thank you so much.
How soon?
Good luck.
Thank you.
Already there. What time do you close tonight?
I'll be calling items 4E and 4F together. Application of Mama H LLC doing business as Hubby's Time Out Bar for a Class C liquor license, and the related manager application of Monica as Hubby, located at 2741 King Lane.
Good afternoon, Jessica Greenwald on behalf of the applicant.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you really believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, or I guess it's evening now, council members. I represent the applicant, Mama H, and Monica Hubby, the manager applicant as well. She is a bar employee for over 31 years and is now going to venture out on her own and open her new spot up near 27th and Superior. Happy to answer any questions that you all may have on either application.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Greenwald? None?
All right, thank you.
Seeing none, thank you.
I'll be calling items 4G and 4H together. Application of Stirfast LLC doing business as Stirfast Caribbean and African Grill for a Class CK liquor license, and the related manager application of Trocon C Brewer, located at 101 North 14th Street, Suite 6A, doing business as 1320 Oak Street.
Good evening.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you really believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Well, I have a current location called Stir 22 Lounge. It's a Caribbean and African restaurant. And what we're looking to do is we already opened a more of a fast casual concept. Is mostly focusing on rice bowls, customized African Caribbean rice bowls. So here comes the list of food: jerk chicken. I know you guys are hungry. I'm sorry. Jerk chicken, curry chicken, oxtails, things of that nature is what we're going to be serving more in the customized bowls type of setting. And what we're looking to acquire is our liquor license, in which we're going to be doing a bottled beer, bottled wine, and bottled cocktails ready to serve is what we want to focus on.
Okay. Sounds good again. Yes, Councilman Christensen.
When will you be opening?
Well, we're actually open right now.
What time do you close tonight?
Tonight we close at 9.
Picked the wrong day to start intermittent fasting, didn't I?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not good for me. Any other questions? Thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
y'all. Have a
out.
good
Appreciate
evening.
it.
I'll be calling items 4I and 4J together. Application of Norm & Son, Inc., doing business as Norm's on 48th for a Class D liquor license, and the related manager application of Dennis E. Sell, located at 2510 South 48th Street. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you really believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. I feel like I was just here, but it's been
Yes.
a while. So we got our land approved, and we're moving forward to get that settled and rezoned. And we're looking to expand our convenience store to offer the off-sale beer and wine and alcohol. So we're going to be expanding our physical space as well to accommodate that. So our special permit with the city is on the agenda for September 16th. So I think that's our last step. We've got everything else ready to roll as far as I know. Hopefully I didn't miss anything else. So I appreciate everyone's patience and help, because it's been kind of a long haul purchasing city land. We didn't realize was going to be that way, but I should have known better. But I'm so happy that everything's working out. I hope the best interests of everyone. So that's where we're at.
Any questions for Ms. Sell?
Thank you for your patience with us.
Yes, thank you for
No, I appreciate all your help. This is a
holding
new
it out.
experience for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to come forward? Okay, moving on.
I'll be calling item 4K, application of Sidecar Cider LLC doing business as Cerro Cider for a special designated license to cover an outdoor area measuring approximately 68 feet by 76 feet at 1746 North End Street on September 22nd from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. with an alternate date of September 29th from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Layden. I'm here to represent Cerro Cider in the request for the SDL.
Okay, do we have any questions for them?
Can you tell us a little bit about your event?
Yeah, the event is an event that somebody wanted to do for some real estate agents to a gathering, sort of a networking thing for them on one of our days off.
Any other questions? Nope, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Anybody else would like to come forward on the item? Seeing none, let's move on.
I'll be calling items 4L and 4M together. Application of Laszlo Inc. doing business as Laszlo's Brewery and Grill Haymarket to temporarily expand its Class C, K, and L liquor license to an additional outdoor area measuring 9 feet by 78 feet at 210 North 7th Street. Also with the secondary application, doing business as Fireworks to temporarily expand its Class C liquor license to add 2 irregular shaped outdoor areas measuring 40 feet by 10 feet and 23 feet by 47 feet at 5750 South 86th Drive. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
Jay Jarvis with the Lazzles and Fireworks. We want to get in the tail end of summer and get some more tables outside. Our guests are really preferring more outdoor dining, and I wish we had even more to ask for, but this is what we've got that's on pavement. And we just want to get a few more tables outside.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Jarvis? Thank you for coming down, Jay.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to come forward on this item?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
seeing none, I move approval of items 4A through M.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any comments on our liquor licenses? Seeing none, please call a roll.
Christensen,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay.
Bye,
Move
Max.
on
Be safe.
to
Thank you.
accepting
You. Fist bump next.
5A.
One when you get up there.
Our
Take
next
one spin walk.
item on the agenda is item 5A, accepting and approving the report of new and pending claims against the city for August 1st through August 15th, 2020.
Would anybody like to come forward to speak on behalf or on any of the city claims? Seeing none, we will vote on our resolution. Someone has to make,
Item 5A,
yeah. Yes.
accepting and approving the report of new and pending claims against the city for August 1st through August 15th, 2020, introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Christensen. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next is our public hearing, ordinances, second reading, and related resolutions. Item 6A is approving a fifth lease addendum between the city and Silver Properties LLC for a 3-year term.
Anyone like to come forward to speak on this item? Seeing none, let's move on.
Item 6B, approving a fourth amendment to the agreement for tower and appurtenances between the city and Celgo Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless to install a conduit and fiber optic line in Van Dorn Park along the trail right-of-way.
Director Johnson.
Good evening, Lynn Johnson with Lincoln Parks and Recreation. This is, as the clerk read, a fourth amendment to an agreement that we have with for this communication tower. On the Elmo unit, you can see Van Dorn Park. On the western side of Van Dorn Park, we have an existing cell tower in this location, and the request by the applicant is to extend an underground 4-inch conduit with a fiber optic line to the Van Dorn right-of-way. And so that's the action that is being brought before the council this evening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Yes, Councilperson Washington.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Director Johnson. Will they be trenching or boring?
The intent is to open trench until they get to the trail, and then they would bore underneath the trail connection.
And what is their agreement to revegetate the open trench?
It's a paved surface, and so I think that they would restore that surface. There's an access road that runs in this area here, so they would restore that access road.
Okay. Any other questions for Director Johnson? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come forward on this item? Seeing none, let's move on.
I'll be calling items 6C, D, and E together. Annexation 20001, application of Sundance LLC to annex approximately 49 acres. Also with the related change of zone 20002, application of Sundance LLC for a change from AG Agriculture District to R5 Residential District Planned Unit Development, and from AG Agriculture District to O3 Office Park District Planned Unit Development with associated waivers, and the related conditional zoning and annexation agreement for 40th and Rokeby Road between the City, Bryan Medical Center, and Sundance LLC for the annexation and development of property generally located at South 40th Street and Rokeby Road.
Good afternoon. My name's Kent Seacrest, representing two clients, Bryan Medical Center and Sundance LLC, whose principals are John Sampson and Corey Vokoun. Today, we will be having 4 speakers trying to present the 3 items that are in front of you. But we also have Corey Vokoun and Brad Marshall here if you have any technical or follow-up neighborhood type questions. 3 items are in front of you today. We have an annexation agreement, an annexation ordinance, and a PUD rezoning ordinance in front of you. The annexation's for 49 acres out there south of Rokeby Road on South 40th Street. So it's kind of in between Rokeby Road and Saltillo. So we're heading towards the South Beltway with this type of proposal. The PUD is for 52 acres and it has 2 types of PUD, changing to an R5 PUD for up to 180 dwelling units or apartments and 15,000 square feet of commercial. And then the second PUD is an O3, which is the Bryan piece that would allow up to 350,000 of commercial uses in the future. We also have the annexation agreement, which addresses the water, the sewer, the roads, and things of that nature, and roundabouts. And we have Bryan and Sundance loaning the city up to $3.3 million of direct loan and direct impact fee loans to help fund the necessary infrastructure that is necessary. We had 2 neighborhood meetings. The first one was attended by 4 people. Richard was there back in January. Then COVID hit, and we had some delays trying to figure out what the city could or could not afford to do with their sales tax receipts for the roads. We also got asked by the acreage people that were about 4/10 of a mile to our east to have them get a briefing. So we had our first my first COVA Zoom neighborhood meeting, and that was interesting. And we had about 25 neighbors that participated on that, and information was shared accordingly. I can't think of anything more important that you worry about besides safety of police and fire, clean water and things, but health is up there in your domain of worries. And we have, I think, a very exciting health care proposal to show you today. And I'd like to ask John Woodridge, President and CEO of Bryan Medical Center, to come up and talk to you about their plans.
Thank you, council members. I'm John Woodridge, President and CEO of Bryan Medical Center. And I think the most important part about this is talking about the need and the why behind it. So we service over 20,000 people in our service area that need cancer services every year. And we're not just taking care of the Lincoln community, but we take care of a large portion of western Nebraska. So we got input. So what did we do? We went out to major cancer centers and we sent a team of physicians as well as management folks to get an idea of what communities are looking for. And one of the things that we discovered in talking with our own patients is that our cancer care in this community is fragmented. And we learned a lot from these other communities about how they bring it all together. So when we talked to people, we said, let's talk to people that have only experienced Bryan. Then we said, let's talk to people that experience Bryan and Omaha. How about people that experience Bryan and MD Anderson or Mayo Clinic? So we tried to get a feel of their entire experience. So what did we find out? One, they wanted to make sure that they could get care in a comprehensive center. So there is a thing called an NCI, Comprehensive Cancer Center. We would be the first one in the state of Nebraska to have such a thing. And the key word in that is comprehensive. So you get all of the people that experience cancer and you say, it's not just about seeing an oncologist, it's the general surgeon, it's the radiation oncologist, it's the primary care doctor. So it's an entire team of people. So the other thing we found out from people is that they want a place that's easy to access. They don't want to go into this big building. They want something they could park right in front of, get care and services right away. So what drove us to this location? The South Beltway. When we looked at the growth of Lincoln and said, where should we be locating at? We took different starting points throughout Lincoln and said, how do we access that location? And we found out that that Beltway made a big difference, especially for those people that are coming in from western Nebraska. For one thing, they don't like driving into the bigger city of Omaha. We provide care to a lot of these people that have cancer across Nebraska. Our current campuses, we looked at those, they're too congested. We're landlocked right now. And we know we have a large volume of people that need those services. So we want to be convenient and we want something that is aesthetically pleasing and provides that care. So when we're looking at this site, we're looking at a cancer center. But if you guys realize there's a lot of acreage there. So our goal is this will probably become another campus of Bryan. We don't have any current future plans in regards to what buildings will go there, but we know the growth that we're seeing in Lincoln. We know the growth that we're seeing of the people that we take care of across Nebraska. And I hope people realize that Bryan Medical Center does take care of the state of Nebraska. That is our primary goal. And we have found through our lesson in COVID how vital our services are to people. How many people get transferred from those towns because they don't have PPE or they need those services that we offer. So we think the need is definitely there from the cancer perspective. We listen to our patients and this is what they're asking for us to provide. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Reese. I'm Vice President of Clinical and Support Services. I've been at Bryan for over 23 years and a native Lincolnite. So I get the fun opportunity here to show some of the pretty pictures. So I've been here at Bryan for a number of years, so get a chance to work on a number of these different projects. But first I want to show you is this Bryan Health Site Master Plan. So like John indicated earlier, John Woodridge, that we looked at this site not only just for the cancer center, we also looked at it as for future growth. As he talked about, both of our main campuses are quite congested in residential areas and thoroughfares. So we looked at with all the acreages there, that acres, to be able to say, what can we do for growth? So if you look at the first part where it says Cancer Center, that area right there is the first part that we build out as part of this section of land. Then as you go further down to the south, it says Phase 2 building. That's for a future building. Again, looking at what John talked about with our metro area growing, the need for healthcare within our community, and looking at being able to provide that flexibility for us long-term for growth. Phase 2, and then in addition to that, a Phase 3 building as well for even longer term. And then the subsequent parking associated with that. But the land lays out in a way on the acres to be able to provide for that future growth, and we're trying to take a more longer term approach of looking at that for what's best for our community long term. But then step back, go away from the phases, and let's go back to the initial phase, the Cancer Center. So what you see in here is our initial design for the interior of the Cancer Center. As you notice, the red arrow right kind of in the middle of it is the main entryway or the lobby into the building itself. As John alluded to, we did focus groups with patients, past patients, and family members. And in those focus groups, some of the key points were make it easy to get in and out, easy parking, because these are patients that are sick. Many of us have been touched by cancer. And understand the aspects of what it entails and the fatigue and the sickness. And so this design is a front door. You come walking right into the lobby, and to your left you go up where you'd have medical oncology and radiation oncology, and looking at 40 plus chairs for chemotherapy up in that area, and medical oncology and infusion center up there. And then to the south of the lobby, down in the southern part, is an imaging center and a breast imaging center, and also a multidisciplinary clinic. And Dr. Scott McCam, one of the medical oncologists we work with, will come up and talk a little bit about what that concept is and how it's going to really change cancer care here in Lincoln for the future. Then the next set on the other side, on the right side, my right, is again, middle portion, the gray is the lobby. That's a lower level, so it's like a walkout ranch. To the north is all the radiation oncology, so 2 linear accelerators, a PET CT. And then to the south of that will be the administrative area and physical therapy and occupational therapy. But one of the great things about this layout and this land is that those bays that you have on the first floor where the chemo chairs are at are going to overlook into the pond that's on that acreage. So they have a beautiful view of the wildlife while they're going through their chemo and infusion, and be able to hopefully get their minds off of what's going on and be able to reflect on nature and providing a lot of that nature feel and that healing of nature, bringing it into the building. So you'll see that next here. Here's one of the renderings. This is the north view. So this is standing from the north of the acreage looking out. You'll see all the glass there. You see a little bit, that big tree right off to the side of that would be the pond. And really providing a feel of, we're jokingly calling it the kind of a metro barn feel, trying to bring in that a little bit of the nature, but also having it look more modern looking as well. Then you go the next, this is the entryway as you go into the site. So this would be the main lobby, as mentioning, off of the first floor. Easy access, easy walk-in, glass all the way through so you could see out to the pond for when you enter in, to give it that calming feeling when you're walking into the building itself. And then lastly, this would be the basically view from the east across the pond. So you see pond there with people walking, and then that glass that you see in the back area would be the lobby area as you go down to the radiation oncology area, but then off further to the north would be all the infusion suites. And again, walkways for patients or family members to get outside and be able to walk the property and walk the area. Again, to be able to create that feel of nature, bringing it inside as well as having it outside for our patients and our family members. At that point, I'll ask Dr. McCam to come up and talk a little further about the vision of this and the impact upon patients.
Hello, I'm Dr. McCam. I'm with Southeast Nebraska Cancer Center. During my training at the Cleveland Clinic is when I was really first exposed and learned about comprehensive care with the patient focus. You know, in that setting, patients traveled from all over the world. They came in, they would have a diagnostic workup, they would see multiple physicians, those physicians would collaborate, and then they would provide a treatment plan. Now that is a background, what's going on as a landscape here in Lincoln. I would say that we have excellent physicians that are right here in this community. However, if I think about the oncology patient, care is fragmented. And I know you've heard that word earlier, but what does that mean? And so I kind of wanted to show you what that means for a real patient's life. Now this is I'm going to refer to this map up here, which is a map of the city. This is a 36-year-old patient of mine that she's a nurse, 3 kids, oldest age 6. She felt an axillary mass. So in her mind, she thought, well, I need to have that removed. And so she made an appointment right here at this dot. If you guys, can you follow my cursor or not? No? I see it here, but I don't see it up there.
You're right.
Okay, I will
top half?
describe it
Yeah,
the best
yeah.
I can.
Yes.
So she ended up going to see a surgeon, and the surgeon said, you know, we really need a mammogram. So he then sent her to a diagnostic imaging center. She got a mammogram, and then she had to return back to his office. Sure enough, she had a breast mass. He sent her back to the imaging center to get a breast biopsy, and then was referred to see me. My clinic's obviously in a different location. When I saw her, I said, well, we need to get an MRI of the breast. She was also having some bone pain symptoms. I got a PET scan, so I sent her back to the diagnostic imaging. And because of her age, I sent her to a different location to get genetic testing with a genetic counselor. She then returned back to see me. Luckily, she did not have any distant spread of disease. And the decision is that we needed to do chemotherapy prior to initiation of surgery. So I sent her back to the surgeon's office, who then scheduled an appointment with the ambulatory surgery center to put in a port, which is a device that we give chemotherapy, that we can use to give chemotherapy with. She then went over to the Bryan Hospital. She had an echocardiogram to look at her heart. I had her see a nutritionalist, which was at a different center, and then finally she came back to my office. We started chemotherapy, and she went through that process very well. Unfortunately, her genetic mutation was positive, so she had an inherited type of breast cancer. I sent her back to the surgeon with really the idea that she needed a bilateral mastectomy. So she then went to Bryan Hospital. She had her bilateral mastectomy, and then I set her up with a lymphedema specialist, because that's in that situation you have swelling in the arm. And then she finally came back to see me after that. I set her up with one of our radiation oncologists, and she had radiation. Now, that scenario of going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, all across the city happens every single day. Now, it's difficult. I will tell you, this lady, she's 36, she's savvy, she got through it. But what happens if you have a 70-year-old that's from Oak, Nebraska, who travels to Lincoln for her health care? Now, just driving into Lincoln is intimidating, much less navigate this. It is stressful, let me tell you. So our group, Southeast Nebraska Cancer Center and Bryan Hospital, when we collaborated, we said, how do we help this? How can we make this better? And one of the ideas here is that we want to consolidate these services. So in this new facility, these services will all be in the same place. Diagnostic imaging, physical therapy, occupational therapy, radiation oncology, palliative care, social work, nurse navigators. There's going to be a place for hair prosthesis, for wigs, mastectomy bra fitting, prosthesis, state-of-the-art research. All of this will be in one facility. So what does this mean to the patients? I think that's going to mean that their experience is going to markedly elevate. Now, in addition to that, Bryan is going to create a center that's a multidisciplinary center. Now, this is a place where the physicians in the community can come into that center and see the patients. So let's say we have another patient that's got breast cancer, and she has a new diagnosis. She can go to that multidisciplinary clinic, and she can see the breast surgeon, the medical oncologist, and the radiation oncologist all at the same time. They can collaborate and then create a treatment plan. And I guarantee you, in that model, our quality of care will continue to rise. So when I look at the benefits to the patient, the quality in the community from this, one of the questions that's probably in front of you is, well, is this needed? Is there value? And I would answer, absolutely, there's value. So I might open it up for questions. If somebody has something.
Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Councilman Christensen.
In a timeline, when do you expect to begin construction and when do you expect to be open for seeing patients?
You know, we're in the phase of doing the design, the specific design, you know, where you put the light switches and all that kind of stuff, the detailed design. And my guess is that's going to take us at least to the end of the year. And then I'm hopeful that once we pass winter, it thaws out, that we'll be able to begin. It also kind of depends on a series of events that are here. But that would be my hope.
Good. Any other questions for our presenters? Seeing none, do you have anything you would like to say to wrap it up?
Yeah, we just wrap it up. The city administration is recommending approval of all 3 items with conditions and 2 waivers. One is block length and the other is height. And again, recommending approval of all those things. Brian is in support of all the conditions. Planning Commission recommended approval of all of the items and the waivers, 7-0, and we look forward to addressing any questions you might have.
Any questions for Kent? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come forward?
So they told me at the back door I could take this off.
Yes, you can.
Thank God. So one of the things about this plan is it's very easy for all of us to rush to the side of the boat that says, let's do this, because who's going to fight cancer?
Name.
And who's going to stop that? You know, I mean, fight cancer center, excuse me.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. Is the record changed?
Yeah.
And so, but there's another side to this that needs to be heard, and that you as a council need to take this into consideration. One of the things about this that has been, I think, overlooked, either intentionally or unintentionally, is the process involved. And Councilman McGinnis, you talked about attending that meeting of 4 people. We as neighbors, and we live in the Silver Springs area, right there off of 56 between Sawtillo and Yankee Hill, we weren't informed. We never got any information. The only way we found out about it was, thank God, our daughter's on social media, and she told us that there was this proposal coming. So that's how we first heard about it. We started to inquire about it, started to get the neighbors and ask a lot of questions, which happened in the neighborhood, as you might imagine, both in a good way, but also in a not so good way. And so we asked Kent to put together a Zoom call, and he did, and it was great. And it was easy to go, this is fantastic, we got to do this, we got to do this. But there's a couple things that I really think you as a council need to take in consideration. Not that I care, but I think those around us and those who are in the area in a future sense to take into consideration on this thing. You look at the cancer center and the design that they have and the lake that's there, it is a beautiful setting. And it all looks nice and it's all very low profile, but what they're not talking about, and they're saying in a kind of a coded way, is that those buildings, those offices that are round 2 and round 1 and 2, whatever that was on the chart, those are office buildings. And the reason they want the waiver for the height is because those can get up to 65 plus feet. Now, if you've ever been out to that area, it's a great area. It sits on top of a hill. So as this all fills in around the Beltway, it's going to be as if we're going to be paying homage to the Bryan Memorial, because it's going to sit up there on the hill with those big buildings. And so I think number one is take a look at that waiver and put a pause on it, because the plan has plenty of room to put those either in a different spot or to hold their height restrictions so that they aren't so sore thummy, if you will, in that region. It wouldn't be so bad if it was down in a valley, but those buildings would be right at the top of the hill. The other thing about this that is, I think, very important to understand is that when you look at this process, there's plenty of time, but yet there's not plenty of time. And one of the things we're worried about as any homeowner is what is going to happen to your property and your taxes and your valuations and all the effort and the lifelong work you put into it, which as acreages, you put a lot of time on those acreages. Even in our own neighborhood, we're starting to see homes go for sale, and even John Woodward just sold his house in our neighborhood. And so if you're feeling left out of the process, wondering what's happening, yet everybody's rushing to the cancer center side of the boat, you have to look at the other side of the boat to say what's going on and what do we need to be looking hard at. So I would strongly suggest that not just blanket, like can't want you to do, just say yes to all of them, is to take a pause, take a hard look at it, and make sure that everybody is included in this and everything is thought of as it sits on top of that hill.
Okay. Could you please state your name for the record?
Tim Geisert.
And address too.
Address also.
Oh, 5151 Bentley Drive, America.
And I'm Jennifer Geisert, same address. And I am opposed to the height waiver. They're wanting to go from 45 feet to 65 feet. That's 6 stories. In addition, they will have all of the electrical, HVAC, whatever generator for hospitals on top of that 65 feet. So we're approaching a good 8-story building out in the middle of agricultural, rural land and acreages. So by passing this zoning ordinance, you are completing, not having comparable properties next to comparable property. The other thing that is being asked for is that they delete 2727080 and then title 2764010. And I'm no lawyer, but as I read through that, I think a complete deletion of that just doesn't sit well for me. I believe that all the parking spaces are supposed to be on one level. If you delete those titles, they're going to be able to do parking garages. You know, hospitals build towers. They call them towers because they're towers. And we sit on acreages and agricultural property. And that will definitely affect our value of our investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming down. Do we have any questions for the guys? Okay, seeing none. Next up.
Hi, I'm Fanchon Blythe, and I do have friends in Silver Springs. Now I understand the problem. I live off 40th in the brand new townhouses, so I want to know, what is your future of 40th Street? Now it's a 2-lane crappy road. What is it going to be with all this busy? So can you answer that? Do we know? I think the gentleman in the back can answer it.
Yes. Do we want to have him answer it at this point, or is there anybody else who'd like to
Do that
come
during his
forward?
rebuttal, if
Yeah,
he
he'll
wishes.
do it on his rebuttal. Anybody else like to come forward to speak on this item? Okay, Kent, could you come up and mention how we're going to do the roadway system?
I have a slide to show, if I can find it. Well, what we're doing here is 40th Street from Yankee Hill down to Rokeby is a city project. It's not part of, it's not part of this annexation agreement, but it will be done very quickly. In the next 2 years, it will be completed. So we are going to urbanize what you would call curb gutter, 2 lanes with all the appropriate right and left turn lanes, and a roundabout at Rokeby Road and 40th Street, which is showing here. So north is off to your right. We will then take 40th Street as part of this annexation agreement and do the same thing. We're going to take the rural section out with those swales, put the curb gutters, the 2 lanes with the appropriate left turn and right turn lanes. And then we're going to do another roundabout at the 1/4 mile south of Rokeby Road, which will be the road that will be used to enter the Bryan Cancer Center. So we will have that completed by the time they open this so that people can get to and from on good paved urban streets, and we'll remove the rural section that's out there today. Someday, could it be 4 lanes? Yes, but the traffic's not warranted right away, so these will be 2-lane urban improvements along the way. I'd like to address the other comments if I could, please. As far as notice, when you're out here, we're required to notify 1/4 mile away. The acreage people of Silver Springs are further than 1/4 mile, so we were not required to do so. When it was brought to our attention, though, that they felt they should be briefed, that's when we volunteered and had the Zoom meeting, of which 25 people participated. And I think we did a good job of answering their concerns along the way. Let me just try to talk to you a moment about health, height, to help you understand. I don't know if we can show the image back on the computer.
Take me off the Elmo, though. There you go.
Thank you.
They'll switch it over for you.
The parcel to the north is up, is the apartment piece, and the lower part of the red piece is where the cancer center and the 2 other buildings will occur someday. You can see the acreages off to the right, and you're looking at a distance on average of 0.4 miles or 4.5 blocks away. So the question is, will they be impaired? And we have been working with the neighborhood since 2006 on a master plan that I could show you, which is this image. And we are proposing the the commercial area up on 40th Street, which is on the left side of this map. And the acreages are off on the right. We plan to fulfill and fill in what you and I would call single family up against the acreages. And that's what we worked out with the neighborhood in 2006. And that's our intention still to do that. So we have a slew of homes to come between Brian's piece and the acreage piece along the way to be sure we're properly master planning this. So we feel with a 1/4 mile, it's appropriate to do height. Now, let's look at the height issue. Remember, the apartments are to the north, so I'm going to show you 3 cross sections. And the red house is an acreage house, the closest one to the common property line. The other homes, excuse me? Well, this is just showing you a cross section cutting from going east to west as the crow flies, that 4/10 of a mile. With the homes that will be built and the topography, you can see that when the homes are built, they will not be seeing any of the apartment complex. This is the cancer center cross section, which again is further to the south. The acreage home is there, and you can see the cancer center building. And when the homes get built between, again, their view will be cut off.
I'm sorry, Mr. Seacrest, could you go back a second? You're pointing at your computer screen and we're not kind of following you.
Okay.
So the big square on the left is the cancer center?
That big square to the left is the cancer center.
And the black arrow on the top right is
the closest home, acreage home, to the project. Most of the acreages are even further away than.
And this is a cross-section of elevation. The top of the peak would be the top of the house
Yes.
above sea level, or?
Correct. You can see, well, I
Yeah.
keep pointing. You'll see the topography of the hill. And this is, again, scrunched, so we can get 4/10 of a mile to show on one drawing. So what you can see what happens. The future, if someday there was a 65-foot high building, and again, it won't be 8 stories because you would exceed 65 feet with 8 stories. There's no plans for this, but there could be someday. And so if there was, this would be the location of the tallest building. And again, you will see the homes block the primary view corridor, and it's 0.4 of a mile away. It's very interesting. In front of you, probably the biggest waiver you see these days is height. We are a little behind the curve, and with the new comprehensive plan proposing more density, you're probably going to see more height, because that's the way the density probably has to occur. Just within a quarter, 1.5 miles, we've had 7 height waivers that you have granted. Well, 6, and the 7th one is pending in front of you soon. So you're seeing a lot of height waivers. And so that's what we're doing. We want to put the world on notice. We don't have the plan to go 65 feet, but we've learned the best way to be good neighbors is to tell the people ahead of time, particularly all those homes that we plan to build between us and the acreages, what's going to be possible in the days to come. Now, realistically, 65 feet is probably 4 stories by the time you do a high first floor and do a penthouse. And these are the physical facilities Brian has today that are over 4 stories or in this range of 65 feet. Their new ambulatory surgical center on their east campus. Brian West Medical Office Building is 4 stories. The Pine Lake campus is 4 stories with penthouse. We have the Brian West East Medical Office Building on the West Campus. That's 4 stories with penthouse. The Ackley Tower, 7 stories with penthouse. Brian West Medical Center, 7 stories with penthouse. And the Brian Medical Plaza is 8 stories with penthouse. So that gives you a flavor of the size of the buildings that have already been built in this community and could be built. Again, I want to stress could be, because again, there's no immediate plans to go 65 stories up in the air. There was also a complaint raised that we're asking for a waiver of the special permit for a healthcare facility. Special permits for healthcare facilities generally have 3 things: a site plan, infrastructure, how the road, water, sewer is going to get there. And then third is the detail of a grading drainage plan. So what's in front of you today is the PUD site plan. So we've already doing that. The second one is the infrastructure. And we've got an annexation agreement that's very thick, that's full of infrastructure to show how that's being done. The only thing that we aren't showing you is a grading drainage plan, because we're not at that level of detail. The PUD specifically says we get to come back through the city department review and show that, and so that will have extensive review as well. So we feel, and so does staff, that we're doing a special permit. We're just doing it through the PUD process, and we're the first thing being built. Often you have special permits when the existing neighborhood's already there and you want to protect them and have them have input. Here, we're the first ones out in this part of the neck of the woods, and so we feel we have complied with the intent of the special permit process this way. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any of your questions.
Would anybody else have a question for Mr. Seacrest? Okay, any questions for Mr. Carey?
Thank you, Director Carey. I'm going to ask you to do some homework for us. would you prepare a map with the height waivers that Mr. Seacrest gave us? And could you show them on a topographic?
Not tonight, though, right?
If you could get that for us in the next 8 minutes, no, I'm joking.
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilman
I
Christensen.
just wanted to comment, there's people who want to say more, but you can't tonight because Mr. Seacrest was the rebuttal. But please offer your comments to the city council members either individually outside this meeting or through emails to the city council packet, Lincoln, go to lincoln.ne.gov, and you can submit your questions to us and we'll respond to you.
Okay, yes, Councilman.
He ran away.
What's that?
He ran away.
You wanted a question for him?
Sorry. Actually, not sorry.
My apologies.
Mine's a little bit more 10,000 foot scale. When the applicants first came up, they talked about the South Beltway. And I'm having a little trouble visualizing this potential rezoning from where the South Beltway would be and what we as the city can expect once the South Beltway is finished as far as development in this area. Do you feel comfortable commenting on that tonight?
Sure, no problem. The South Beltway is approximately, when it's built, about 2 miles further south in its location. And so there's room to grow down to the South Beltway. We fully expect that to happen. Over the next 10, 15 years, it'll fill in property fairly quickly. With the South Beltway, by the way, is slated to begin construction very soon and will be built or completed by 2025. That is a schedule that it's on, so it's moving forward, it's funded, so it's a real project. What was being alluded to earlier as far as the site location for this being smart in the sense of for outstate folks coming into Lincoln is, if you imagine coming into Lincoln today, you likely would come into either downtown Lincoln and make your way through the community and get to another medical facility. In the future with the South Beltway in this location, somebody from outstate could come in on I-80, take Highway 77 down. That also will be improved to a freeway status roughly in the same time frame, and then get on the South Beltway and get right over to 40th Street and shoot straight north. So that's the implication of what the South Beltway does for folks that are outstate. Ultimately, it's also going to be available to folks that live here locally as well as further east if they're coming to Lincoln for their medical care. And I envision that some folks will probably come down 77 on the South Beltway, or from Highway 2 coming in from the southeast and hit the South Beltway and come over to 40th Street. So what it does is it allows for that freeway status to be used by multiple people, both in the city as well as outside the city, to come to that area, either along the South Beltway or further north up along 40th Street.
And you anticipate lots of additional development and rezoning issues to come before us because of the South Beltway?
I would term it as expected regular development that will happen. Was already moving southward, and with the South Beltway would probably be accelerated more quickly because of the South Beltway.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Director Carey? Okay, seeing none. It's like you said.
Nope.
No. Pretty much done right now. But please do give us your information and sign in and call us and give us or email us. We'd be glad to answer your questions. Okay, that ends that public hearing. We move on to the next item.
We still have item 6F.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
Item 6F is an amendment to Ordinance 20931 Shared Mobility Device Pilot Program to reincorporate provisions erroneously eliminated in prior amendment.
Okay. Would anyone like to come forward and speak on this item at this point? I think they're all going the other way.
What did you say the item was?
Scooters.
Scooter?
Scooters?
Shared mobility. Would you like to speak at this point? Please come forward.
I tell you, if you could talk louder or get closer to the phone. I don't know about other people, but I can't hear it. This was in the paper, part of it. I don't know at this time, in this kind of financial situation, if it's appropriate. Number one, people need to walk. Even young people need to walk. And this is going to discourage any kind of healthy exercise. Number two, Omaha has discontinued their program because they didn't find that it was in the best interest of the public. So it seems at this point that you need to follow the same kind of agreement. I don't know if you're getting money from these companies to have this program or not. That may be a consideration since the budget's sort of iffy. And as was testified originally, it's dangerous. And people are not going to adhere just to the bike lanes. They're going to be on the sidewalks or whatever, however they want to do. And I'm not sure if the police have ordinances that will allow them to arrest people who are breaking that part of the ordinance. So I would ask you, we would ask you to consider putting the whole thing aside and think about people besides just the small few people who will use this program for those reasons.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward and speak about this? The program is a scooter program, the electric scooters for downtown. Okay. Councilperson Ward?
Well, I would, if, support, do we need to adopt this amendment today? We don't take action on it.
No action today.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But we need to, I would like to
Not today.
suspend the rules.
Actually, I think someone has asked if we would suspend the
Suspend the
rules
rules.
today.
Correct.
Today, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, okay, I would move that we.
Okay, well, why are, never mind, go ahead.
Okay, so yes, thank you, that's correct, I was mistaken. So I would move that we suspend the rules and adopt, we first suspend the rules. Am I messing this all up, City Attorney? So.
Come on up. Public comment? Mr. Christie.
We'll get there.
Yes.
I have a question about why. What is the emergency?
Because we are starting
Motion
this
second
tomorrow.
first in the warrant.
Can we
Right,
talk
yeah, yeah.
after we?
Where's the second?
Oh, I'll second. Let's talk.
Been moved and seconded that we suspend the rules to vote on this item today.
And my question is why?
Because, I can help answer that.
Sure.
You want to come on up? Would you like to have him and then
Sure.
you
Sure,
can follow
thank
up?
you, City. Yeah, that's
The
fine.
question today is why do we need to suspend the rules and to approve this today?
So, thank you, Johansi Christie, City Attorney. This was actually, I think, adopted September of 2019. Then I think there was amendment, came back before you June of this year to change the date to when it would go in effect. When that happened, some language inadvertently got left out from what you originally approved in September of 2019. The language that inadvertently got left out, I believe was section 4B, that, well, I don't think I need to read it out loud, but it basically says that anyone operating it is subject to the rules of the road, municipal code, and that inadvertently got left out. It is set to go in effect tomorrow, the pilot program, and so that is why there is a request to act on it today. Now, again, to be clear, it came September of 2019 and was approved by the council then. So-
And I remember at that time, we had quite a vigorous conversation about the scooters having to abide by the rules of the road because we are going to classify them as a motor vehicle, which is why we said not on the sidewalks. So, and Ms.
So-
Kinsey just asked us about.
Let me just clarify then. If we don't pass this today, suspend our rules and pass this today, then there would be at least a week go by, minimum, where the rules of the road would not apply to the scooters that would be operating.
That is correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, get it. I get
Mr.
it.
Chair. Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Councilperson Ward.
Thank you. I need to apologize to our city attorney. He called me today to ask me to introduce this because I had introduced the original ordinance. And so just to clarify, because the ordinance does go into effect tomorrow, it was delayed. I'll wait till they're done conferring.
Okay.
So because of the pandemic, we also got into a delay. And so that's another reason that we're pushed up against the start date for tomorrow. So there's nothing hidden about this. It's just nothing new. It's just a new start date because of the pandemic. And so that's the reason for the amendment and the need to pass it today. So thank you, Mr. Christie, for helping me introduce to clarify what you tried to clarify with me on the telephone earlier today. So that's why we're doing it. And Councilman Christensen, I hope that answers your question. Okay, very good.
Councilperson Cho.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just for further clarification for me, tomorrow starts our one-year pilot program.
Correct.
And then after 1 year, we'll stop and reevaluate whether we want to continue with this program or not.
Yes.
And so this is more of a cleanup to get us back to where we were in September of last year.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Christie.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Shaw.
Any other comments? We need to vote on the rules change or the suspension of the rules. Okay, Sony?
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Yes.
McGinnis. Motion carried, 6-0.
Now we need to vote on the item.
The main motion, okay.
Hmm?
An amendment, I'll read the item again. An amendment to ordinance 20931, Shared Mobility Device Pilot Program to reincorporate provisions erroneously eliminated in prior amendment introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second by Councilperson Washington. Any other comments, questions? Please call the roll.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried, 6-0. That ends our public hearing, ordinances second reading and related resolutions. Move on to ordinances third reading and related resolutions. Item 7A, amending section 2.04.010 of the Lincoln Municipal Code relating to rules of the council to add Rule 3-33, signs prohibited, to prohibit signs in council chambers during meetings, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and second by Councilperson Ward.
And I'd like to offer a motion.
Okay?
I understand that the way the ordinance was originally written, it added a rule at the end. I would like to substitute a different ordinance that in effect does the same thing but cleans up a lot of the language.
Motion to amend
Motion to
Substitute. Substitute
Motion
amendment.
to substitute.
and second.
Second.
Okay.
Now discussion.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Christensen.
Yeah.
Okay, discussion on the move to substitute.
Okay. The move to substitute is that I thought that the first proposal to amend existing ordinance for the rules of this chamber, I thought it deserved a closer look, and it needed to be polished up. I have received a number of emails and phone calls about this, and though I was hesitant to support this at the front end, after looking at it more closely and delving into it, I can be in support. I want people to know that I also want to be understood. I strongly believe in the fundamental right to freedom of speech and expression. I also believe very strongly in the rest of the rights under our Constitution's First Amendment. These rights, as well as the rights of these rights, as well as the right of each citizen to protest the government and to ask for redress, forms the foundation on which our country operates. With that said, I believe those rights can be exercised in city council chambers in such a way so that the business of council can proceed without chaos. I want everyone with something to say to be able to share their thoughts, their opinions, and testimony without interruptions, both audibly and visibly. This summer, I reveled to see so many people participate in the local government, and most especially those asking for justice. The ordinance we will vote on this afternoon or this evening was fashioned after similar rules in the state's unicameral and the U.S. Congress. These guidelines for how the business of the council is to be conducted is to focus our attention on what people say, not whether they have the loudest voice. They can position themselves first within the camera's view, or they can hold the largest sign. I'm not trying to squelch an individual's right to speak within council chambers, but I am trying to eliminate the interruptions and distractions and increase the ability of each person to be heard. For those reasons, I will be supporting motion 2 to amend the duties of the chair to ensure the public has a full opportunity for their testimony to be heard and considered without audible and visual interruption from other attendees at city council meetings.
Yes, thank you. Councilperson Christensen.
I appreciate the contributions that Councilperson Washington has added and support them. She's done a great job on this.
Yes, Councilperson Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also support the efforts of Councilwoman Washington and Councilman Christensen. I think it's, I did hesitate as well in the beginning, but we have, I think, been extremely lenient and compassionate as a council the last several months. And even this evening, we had people shouting at us from the back instead of asking or coming forward or being acknowledged, asking questions. And it's not appropriate. And we've been also accused of not having control of our chambers. And I think that's correct. And so I will be supporting these changes. Thank you, Councilwoman Washington and Councilman Christensen, for introducing this. I think there's still a lot of room for civil engagement, but I think it's also appropriate that we respect one another, and there's a way to do this appropriately. So thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilman Shob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to my esteemed colleagues, Councilman Washington, Councilman Ward, Councilman Christensen. I appreciate what you're saying, and I too found myself struggling with the jostling of signs, the outbursts from the community. I found it annoying. I found it a little bit insulting, but I am concerned. It's for 1 or 2 nights a month for just a few minutes that we have to endure this. I hope that we act in the chambers more like adults and present ourselves in a better manner, but I'm struggling with us establishing a rule that constrains the speech of the people who attend these meetings once a week. I'm having trouble voting. I will have trouble supporting this.
Thank you. Councilperson Bauer.
I appreciate Councilman Christensen and Councilman Washington for working together on this issue. But I feel like that we're experiencing a time where people are polarized and divided on a wide variety of topics, not just one thing. And the one thing that I think that people kind of agree on is the fact that they feel like that their government isn't listening to them and isn't hearing them. And I'm concerned that our response to that is to further limit people's ability to express themselves to decision makers in our city. Elected officials should be accessible, and we need to be engaged with our community, and we need to be receptive to the messages that we're hearing. Testimony is not the only way to get a message heard. There's email, there's phone calls, and I also do believe that signs are a way to get a message heard. We already have rules in place that state that it's up to the council and the chair to maintain decorum in the chambers, and these rules have worked and they've been adequate during my time on the council. I really appreciate the supportive nature of people working together on this ordinance, but I can't be supportive of the ordinance overall because I struggle with limiting people's ability to get their message and their voice heard to their elected officials and decision makers.
Anybody else like to speak on this item at this time? Seeing none, let's call the roll. And this is on the motion to substitute.
Washington,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
Substitute, yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Now we need to vote on that motion that we just substituted. Any questions, other comments? Okay, yes, you have one,
I do,
Councilman Schob?
I'm gonna follow up on something Councilman Bowers said. I struggle with residents of the community that tell me that we're not listening to them just because we didn't vote the way they wanted us to vote. I wish everyone would rethink that. We do hear you, we talk amongst ourselves, we talk with experts in the community. Just because we didn't vote the way you wanted us to vote doesn't mean we didn't hear you. That is I want to make a clear distinction. Just because we didn't vote the way you wanted us to vote doesn't mean we didn't hear you.
Okay, anybody else like to speak on this item? Please call the
I
roll.
prefer email too.
Please call the roll.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
No.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
No.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried, 4-2.
Okay, move on to the next item.
Item 7B, change of zone 17030B, application of Lenoa Lincoln WC LLC to amend the existing planned unit development to include a waiver to reduce the required parking on property generally located at 88th Street and Bobtail Road, introduced by Schob.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilman Christensen. Do we have any questions for staff or anybody on this item? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Christensen,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried, 6-0. Item 7C, change of zone 20024, application of Aaron and Lonnie Bird for a change from H3 Highway Commercial District to R4 Residential District and from I1 Industrial District to H3 Highway Commercial District on property generally located at North 27th Street and Old Dairy Road, introduced by Schob.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilman Christensen. Does anybody have any questions or comments for staff? Okay. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried, 6-0. That ends our ordinance's third reading and related resolutions. Resolutions' first readings are items 8A through 8H. Ordinance's first reading and related resolutions are items 9A and 9B.
Mr.
And-
Chair, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
When she
Still
finishes.
reading.
And pending list items are 10A through 10D.
Mr. Chair, I think there are people in the audience that came for public hearing on some of the resolutions under first reading. Would you explain the procedure?
Yes. Resolutions that are on first reading are just for us to announce what they are, and so you can look at them. And then the second week usually is when we will have a public hearing on these resolutions, and usually on the third week is when we would be, no, we vote on the second week on resolutions.
Resolutions are hearing and action on the second reading, second week.
And ordinances, we will have a third reading, at which point we'll vote on them. So there won't be any public hearing on those, on any of the first reading resolutions or ordinances.
I'd also like to add to that, I had mistakenly forgot to put an announcement on there for our next council meeting. Due to the holiday, we will not have a council meeting on the 7th of September. Our next meeting that we will have for council would be September 14th. So those that are on first reading resolutions would be having public hearing during that time.
Okay? Move on to the public comment.
You announce public comment?
Yes. Public, Sony, did you want to read any, or is there anything you want to say?
Nope, that's all I have for
Nope.
now.
Please come on up and you can speak on anything that's not on this agenda or on future agenda items.
Roy Helm, 2750 South 13th Street. It was my understanding that we would be able to comment on ordinances this evening,
On
specifically
ordinances on-
item 7A on the agenda.
Can I clarify that for you?
Yeah, go ahead if you want
Okay,
to.
ordinances, second reading are public hearing items. This was on public hearing previously from the 17th of August. Okay, so there is never any public hearing on ordinances third reading, which is for action only.
Okay, even with the substitution?
Correct.
Okay. Not happy about that, but I don't recall this being discussed on the 17th, and I was here, so my bad.
Okay. Thank you. Who else would like to come forward to speak to the council today? On any item that's not on our agenda? Yes.
Attorney Christie, did you want to address us? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead and state your name and.
Hello, my name's Robert Way. I live at 801 Elevado Avenue. I'm rise today to ask the council to consider supporting the mayor in her fight against COVID. The council has given her emergency powers. The council has supported the new health director. Unfortunately, at least in my mind, when we think of an emergency, we tend to think of a short-term event. I would love for this to be a short-term event, but it's seeming more and more like this is not a fire. This is whatever it is. I can't, it's hard to even imagine. Even when you're in it, it's hard to understand what we're going through. But I don't think the term emergency, to me, that's something where the sirens come and the police come and it's all over and then it's done. This is where we live. This is our new life. And as we get through this, at a certain point, it becomes a legislative matter. The executive needs and should have, if she's right, the support of the body. She shouldn't be standing up there alone. So I don't know exactly how that would be best be described, but I know that there must be some confusion in the population in general, because there's several groups, including groups that seem to be strongly supported by former council members, who are taking the opposite effect, that certain steps that the city has taken are not proper. And I think that leaves people confused, because here we have a decision that was made where we had to give these person an emergency power because we didn't know how to deal with it. Now we've had a long period of time to learn more information, to process, to come listen to our experts. I know I personally consider Bob Rano one of our experts. I listened to his his YouTube video today about the state of the pandemic going forward in our area. It's not particularly the best news I ever heard. So there's a possibility that unfortunately in the next few weeks things are going to get worse. I think the population would be well served to hear from the council on what they think. This can't just be the health director and the mayor. This has to be everybody. So, at least that's my opinion. And that's enough out of me.
Thank you, Robert. Who else would like to come forward to speak?
Hello again. Such a pleasure to be here. I think this is just a follow-up to Robert more than anything else. So, John Herms again.
State your name for the record.
State Senator Adam Moorfield submitted an opinion through his nonprofit Civic Nebraska on June 7th, 2019, highlighting the unconstitutionality of unelected county officers. The opinion directly impacts localities of 100,000 or more inhabitants, which includes Lincoln, Nebraska. And I'm kind of curious why I'm needing to bring this up. Where were each of you? This opinion was submitted to the Attorney General Peterson in June 2019, who issued a 7-page opinion, September 24th, 2019, indicating the appointment of county officers constitutionally suspect and predicted that if it were brought before the Nebraska Supreme Court, it would be found unconstitutional. So need I remind you again of your oath to defend the Constitution and not pervert it? I've come up here time and time again highlighting the warnings of our founding fathers, including President Washington's warnings against sectionalism and his opinion that the true motives of a sectionalist are to create distrust or rivalries between regions or people to gain power and take control of the government. He acknowledges again that the parties are sometimes beneficial in promoting liberty in monarchies, but he argues that political parties must be restrained in a popular elected government because of their tendency to distract the government from their duties, create unfounded jealousies amongst groups and regions, raise false alarms among the people, promote riots and insurrection, and provide foreign nations and interests access to the government where they can impose their will upon the country. We do not have a county administrator form of government in Nebraska, according to our Constitution. Your oaths are to the U.S. and the state of Nebraska's constitutions, not to partisanship in this apolitical body. And I truly have tried to share with you, each of you, and inform you and provide each of you the benefit of the doubt. However, time and time again, you've proven your allegiance not to the flag or country and not to the flag of freedom, the United States as a whole, not to the city of Lincoln through your destruction of our local economy, but two-party to internal cliques and corrupt colleagues. Which begs the question, why was Ben Madsen targeted at all by the administration? Will each of you be making public statements regarding the reality of COVID-19, where the average age of death and the number of serious or terminal comorbidities of each of those victims, what they had? I don't recall seeing those from the health director at all. Did the health director, in all of her genius, not know that these things existed, or did she neglect her duties? Did she not properly inform this body that the average age of a COVID-19 death in the United States is 75 years of age? And did you know what the life expectancy is without the comorbidities or a manufactured crisis? Why wouldn't she inform the populace of those facts? Again, I warned you not only of the dangers of sectionalism highlighted in George Washington's farewell letter to the country, but also on the power grab by the fake, unconstitutionally appointed health director, Patricia Lopez. Why would you and the other bodies rush through an overpaid, underqualified, and unconstitutionally appointed health director, whom I warned each of you about prior, again in December 2019, and prior to your rushed vote? And why hasn't the city attorney looked into the facts, and why haven't you? Again, defense, not perversion. Why was the city attorney position changed? These measures were never about local safety at all, evident by the fact that there's no further pursuit of Mr. Madsen. It never was about public safety. very, very upset with how this body has conducted itself, and I have both of the opinions here as well. It's dirty politics at the end of the day. It's nasty politics. It emanates from a corrupt, non-local administration with disregard for the Nebraska state constitution and connections so desperate and deeply rooted that Lincoln citizens and small business owners' rights regarding their businesses, lives, liberty, and their individual right to pursue happiness have been brushed aside under the guise of public safety and not for it.
1 minute.
So since either you guys are oblivious or simply pretending on this theatrical stage, I'll let you know now so there's no confusion why this house of cards is probably going to crumble. You've entered your oaths with allegiance to politics over country and party over the Constitution's unconstitutional appointments and unconstitutional curfew, limitations on the rights of small business citizens, and a coordinated effort to corrupt Lincoln's economy using fear-based tactics, destroying thriving small business, and overstating and pandering fear in citizens regarding a virus that only affects 6% of the population that had it and has an average number of comorbidities of 2.6 other terminal causes. Thomas Jefferson wrote in his letter to P.S. du Poet des Nemours in 1816, "Enlighten the people generally, and tyranny and oppressions of body and mind will vanish like evil spirits at the dawn of the day." So, hello, evil spirits.
Thank you. Who else would like to come forward to speak on any item that's not on our agenda? Okay, we'll go with this gentleman first, and then Jane, and then you, okay?
I promise I won't take up too much of your time here. My name is Andrew Christensen. I live at 1212 Twin Ridge Road. Lincoln has the opportunity to be a social leader in this country. We have been casually ignoring a problem that has gotten so out of control that our children are throwing around names and words without even understanding their true meaning and treating things as though they're normal. I go into nice family restaurants and I see people throwing this name around and pretending as though everything is just fine. I'm talking about boneless chicken wings. I propose that we as a city remove the... Excuse me, I'm trying to...
Yeah.
Excuse me,
Sure.
come on. I propose that we as a city remove the name boneless wings from our menus and from our hearts. These are our reasons why. Number one, nothing about boneless chicken wings actually come from the wing of a chicken. We would be disgusted if a butcher was mislabeling their cuts of meats, but then we go around and pretending as though the breast of the chicken is its wing. Number two, boneless chicken wings are just chicken tenders, which are already boneless. I don't go to order boneless tacos. I don't go and order boneless club sandwiches. I don't ask for boneless auto repair. It's just what's expected. And then number three, we need to raise our children better. Our children are raised being afraid of having bones attached to their meat. That's where meat comes from. It grows on bones. We need to teach them that the wing of a chicken is from a chicken, and it's delicious. I propose that we rename boneless wings in the city of Lincoln. We can call them buffalo-style chicken tenders. We can call them wet tenders. We can call them saucy nugs or trash. We can take these steps and show the country that where we stand, and that we understand that we've been living a lie for far too long, and we know it because we feel it in our bones.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, hold it down. Jeez.
I would like to just comment here. For the record, that's my son.
I did notice the last name and just thought,
Yeah.
coincidence?
Okay, who else? Come on forward, Jane. Would you like to come forward first?
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs. Well, you've had your laugh for the day. Thank you for passing the sign ordinance. I don't know if it's gone in effect right now, but we have a sign back there. It's becoming more and more evident that Black Lives Matter is anarchy. As I pointed out before, they have said that they support Angela Davis, who is an avowed Marxist. And they also, if you've been listening to the news, have received millions of dollars, and that those dollars are paying them to protest. You have agreed to stand up for the Constitution, which says, besides freedom of speech, it also has limits on protest. And I have been told recently that they have been in the country club neighborhood at 11:30 at night, screaming and yelling and protesting. If there is not an ordinance about the limits of protest, then it needs to be brought forth by somebody on this council. This is not the way of freedom of speech. Your freedom of speech is limited by the mayhem that it will cause. And this is mayhem for people who live in quiet neighborhoods. I just saw on one of the realty transfers that there was a condo worth $700,000 in downtown Lincoln. Now, people who spend that kind of money don't want noise at 11:30 at night. So, while the freedom to speak is part of the Constitution, it is not allowed to harass other people. So I would hope that you would begin to think about the fact that this group is not out to support you or to support black people. They are out to turn over the government of the United States and form their own idea of what government is. This is what anarchists do. I'm sure you've studied about this in your education. And we are coming close to having this in Lincoln, Nebraska. So it is really time for you to put your foot down, for the mayor to put her foot down, and put limits on what's going on here. It is an affront to the public who have voted you into office and who care about the government of the United States. They have been given much leeway in what they've been able to do.
1 minute.
And they'll push it. And so we ask you to stand up for people who care about the United States, its Constitution, and your agreement to support that.
Thank you. Come on forward. No, she's next. Would you like to come forward over here?
No, it's okay.
I'll defer.
No.
I will defer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kieran Wilson. As you can see with this Black Lives Matter shirt, I've been organizing with Black Lives Matter. We are not a terrorist organization. We are not an anarchist organization. But Watchdogs, I don't know if you've heard of the organization Watchdogs. They are in fact a terrorist organization. They are anarchists. They've been out in my neighborhood every night until midnight, just causing noise, making all these problems. And so I just wanted to make that statement. And then additionally, I have something to support my argument. If I can find this. Do I just put it here?
Give it time.
Okay, yeah, so what this is, sorry.
Zoom in buttons at the bottom of the pad.
Oh, cool. Zoom. Yeah, so this is a sign. I don't really have a lot to say about it, but I just wanted to point out that there's a sign on here, and then also these are a bunch of signs, and I think signs are good. Additionally, this is a picture of Councilman Christensen, and then these are signs. Let me zoom in. They're specifically Black Lives Matter signs. Zoom out. Oops, spoiler alert. Here's a bunch of signs. This is a lot of them, more than one sign. I'm sorry if this is distracting. Here's a picture of Pete Ricketts when he was younger. And then as a parallel, here's a picture of me when I was younger. And I'm like throwing a fedora and wearing etnies. And then here's my birth certificate. And if you zoom in, I was born in Lincoln. And so in conclusion, we should limit the First Amendment right. People should not be able to protest. People should have to just stay at home, honestly. All signs, make all signs illegal. Make words, any words, because people can use words to be distracting, Make words illegal. Did I say make signs? No, we already did signs. Make signs illegal. Watchdogs is a terrorist organization. Black Lives Matter is not. I think that's all I have. Yeah, and then also, I don't know if you're aware of Ernest Jackson. There's a young man, Ernest Jackson. He's from Omaha. He was unjustly arrested. I won't go into details, but I just want to speak his name because I think that we can all find common ground in pushing for him to be pardoned. Essentially, he was seen as like an accessory to a murder that was committed, in which the individuals who committed the murder were then found innocent on the grounds of self-defense, and he's still in prison to this day. I believe that was in 1990 that he was arrested. And so as the Black Lives Matter organization, I just want to clarify, there's no Black Lives Matter organization in Lincoln. None of it, I'm not being paid. I guess I have people giving me money to make things happen, but they're not from some higher entity. They're my friends and neighbors that care about Black people in their community. And yes, Black Lives Matter does care about Black people. I don't know if Watchdogs does. I assume they don't. But yeah, I'm sorry. Going back to Ernest Jackson, we're going to push for him to be pardoned. And I think that you all in your personal individual lives just should be willing to support that, because this is not even a political thing. Like when I found out about that, I found out from his friend who lives in Lincoln now, and he told me that story and I was crying. It is absolutely horrifying that can happen. It's brutal. It's so sad. And so I really want you all to look into that story. I'm going to be sending you a long email. Maybe I'll put a link to that at the end of it. But I'm just going to ask for your support. And you don't have to do anything now. But when that does happen, I hope that we can all come together on that, because this man needs to be set free. It's ridiculous that he's still in prison. So yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. Have a good day.
Thank you. Who else would like to come forward? Yeah. We'll get you up here.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for...
Can you state your name?
I mean, I think it's a decent speech, but, it's, I don't know if it'll create sirens.
Could you please state your name?
You bet. My name is Dr. Sarah Son Thomas, and do you need my address as well?
If you would like.
Yeah, 7807 Katrina Lane. And I am here today because sometimes, often these days, nations are defined by emboldened racists, as we just saw illustration of that fact. But sometimes nations are defined by their omissions, by ways in which they are far too quiet. And so I commend councilpersons Bernice Schob and Jane Raybald for making visible again the need to advocate for immigrants in our community, and namely DACA recipients.
Point of order.
Can I not address that future piece?
Please.
Okay, so if I can't, I look forward to being able to do that. I am I'm not here as a professor at UNL, but I prepare teachers and have been an educator for about 30 years. And I also am a co-founder of Stand In for Nebraska, which is a nonprofit, a human rights organization And then we also have incorporated the Nebraska Poor People's Campaign that advocates for a number of things, including eliminating systemic oppressions, protecting against environmental degradation, ending racism, reducing overblown militarism, and budgeting for peace versus war, and addressing toxic narratives that demonize and place at great risk the lives for people of color. And so, yeah, I don't know. So just in response to what I've heard tonight, I had a flashback about half my life ago. I'm 50. I was in Austin, Texas, and I was applying for teaching jobs, and I went to a district that said to me the fact that I was a Northerner was a disadvantage to me. They did offer me the job. I declined. Their district flag was the Confederate flag. And the superintendent then proceeded to explain to me why their systemic racism was justified. You know, it's just our heritage. You know, you've got to respect that if you're going to teach for us. You got to be able to sing the song. Dixie was their school song. This is about half my life ago, and I really thought at this moment, I'm sitting in the superintendent's office, and I kid you not, I thought I had plunged into a scene from Mississippi Burning, and it was just surreal. I saw his mouth move, but I just saw this really smug, white supremacist evil that I've never been able to shake since then. And I saw that tonight on full display. Shame on them. It's despicable. It is emboldened by our governor. It is emboldened by the Trump administration. This is what has been wrought by the moral rot for the last 4 years and, oh my God, hundreds before. But it's just that emboldened arrogance, that white supremacy that just feels so entitled to display the signs in the back. And it's sick. And I'm ashamed to be white because of that. And I just want to say on the record, we have no association whatsoever. And I will be back to talk about DACA recipients. Thank you so much.
That'd be in 2 weeks. Thank you. Yes.
Would it be inappropriate for me to ask for people who were supportive of DACA to stand or raise their hand?
Yes.
They're not
go
allowed
ahead.
to speak tonight.
Yeah.
But
I'd like to say something not in regards to DACA.
Yeah, come on forward.
I'm going to go ahead and leave my mask on because I respect my fellow Americans.
Okay.
Having said that, I'm Shirley Mora James. I'm an attorney here in Lincoln. I do civil rights, systemic cases, immigration, specializing in DACA and in cancellation of removals. And I do state and federal criminal. Having said all that, I just want to say, God bless you guys. I don't think I'd been able to hold myself. Some of the outlandish comments towards all of you, God bless you, and I'm glad that you're working for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to come forward? Yes.
thank you.
And then you can come up next.
Hello, my name is Liam McChristian. I live at 1040 Y Street. And I'd just like to say that I was born and raised in Nebraska. I've been a patriotic American all my life. And the thing I love most about this country are those 3 key principles espoused in our Declaration of Independence: the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I was pretty amazed hearing some of the rhetoric here that would have been more fitting with someone justifying the Boston Massacre back in 1775 and calling for the execution of the signers of the Declaration of Independence on behalf of the king than for a patriotic person who defends this Constitution to to be espousing. The First Amendment is the underpinning of this nation's freedom, and to call for its restriction as a higher principle than its protection is simply amazing. And so some of the rhetoric that I heard seemed very reminiscent of the same obsession with the convenience of affluent white communities during the 1960s, concerned with desegregation and protests that were finally forcing the issues of systemic racism into this country into the forefront in such a way that white communities were finally having to listen, that they viewed it as an inconvenience by outside agitators that had to be suppressed rather than embraced as part of this great national project. And it's amazing hearing the same fragility, the idea that the loud noises at night of a protest are such a great infringement on liberty as opposed to perhaps these armed militias intimidating protesters, and as we saw tragically in the case of Wisconsin, resulting in fatalities. What greater anarchy can exist than when the institutions don't serve the people but rather rule over them? What greater anarchy exists than when armed gangs roam the streets? Is this a failed state? No, it isn't. There's no place for this kind of political violence to be not only condoned by many through their silence, but also even glorified by others. I also appreciate the decisiveness of the city government in attempting to deal with this pandemic and caring for the, albeit minority, but still significant number of people, especially for people whose families were affected by the COVID-19 epidemic, in working to finally suppress this epidemic and put an end to this public health crisis. I thank you very much to your service to our city and our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to come forward? Okay. Anybody else like to come forward and speak? We have one more? Yes, come on forward.
Daniel Windham, 8560 Fremont Street, apartment 65. So I just want to go through a quick timeline of extremism in Lincoln in 2020. February 21st, 2020, extremist citizens enter state capitol with semi-automatic rifles to protest a law being passed. David Pringle, a managing partner of DE Guns with known ties to neo-Nazis, organized and speaks at the hearing. He says, and I quote, "I love my race more than any other race, just like I love my family more than any other family." Politician Melody Varcrow, and I know I got that name wrong, I apologize, states that she's being threatened by extremists. May 25th, 2020, George Floyd murdered. June 8th, 2020. Chaz established with support by Nikita Oliver, a former candidate for mayor in Portland. July 26th, a Facebook post from the Lincoln Democratic Socialist of America, and I quote, "Last night, Omaha police trapped and violently arrested what they admitted were peaceful protests. Hold these fascists accountable." August 19th, Facebook post, Nebraska Republican Party. "Kamala Harris is an anti-Catholic bigot." August 21st, 2020, Richard Hill sues the city of Lincoln over coronavirus restrictions. August 30th, protests outside of Lincoln Capitol call for a defunding of police. What is my point with this? This is not an issue of left versus right in Nebraska. What it is an issue of is moderates versus extremists. When extremists get a hold of a government, be they the Jacobin Party or the Communist Party, the average American, black, white, age, gender, it doesn't matter, they're going to begin to suffer, and the cities themselves begin to suffer. They lose trust in their government. It's no secret that firearms in Lancaster County have gone off the scale. Unbelievable the amount that are selling. Extremists, both on the left and right, are looking to gain further political power in Nebraska. If violence happens, it won't be from outside agitators in Lancaster County. It'll be from our own citizenry. What can elected officials do? And this is where I want to thank all of you. Be moderate. Continue to be moderate. Keep doing what you're already doing. It seems to me, based on the limited time that I've had to research, that none of the elected officials I'm speaking to have tweeted anything extreme, said anything extreme, or done anything online to embarrass themselves. You all appear to be cordial with each other, and I encourage you all to continue to break bread outside of this established office. Care for each other's families, your fellow officials, and their political futures. Yeses may mean actively campaigning for your political opponent in this room. As a team, you're going to have to work with each other and not fall into the political divide that has virtually destroyed the Republican and Democratic parties. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, come forward.
Hello, my name is Serena Fleet. I will keep my comment relatively brief today, but I would like to say and have you all think about this statement. When Black Lives Matter, everybody lives better. I will say it again. When Black Lives Matter, everybody lives better. Defund LPD.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward? Yes.
My name is Kelly Seacrest. I live in Lincoln. Yeah, Black Lives Matter, defund the LPD. And I'd also just like to point out, having now engaged with the city council and the school board and different, essentially local government processes, it's been very apparent how inaccessible they are, how difficult it is to show up here, how nerve-wracking it is to speak in public. And many, many meetings happen during the day where working folk, or if you don't have childcare, you cannot go. So for instance, the interlocal government meeting that had to do with the SROs was at 12:15. It was completely inaccessible for most people. Today, eviction court, most of those hearings are happening during the workday, where a lot of people cannot actually go to their court hearing or they'll lose their job. So there seems to be a pattern of you're essentially people in power prioritizing what's comfortable and convenient for them at the expense of things that are actually impacting people. Another instance is like closed captioning. We've been asking this for quite some time. I think we really need to look at how inaccessible it is. And I heard a lot of people talk about democracy, a lot of people talk about the Constitution, but part of that is actually involving citizens and actually involving the people who live in Lincoln, and that's very, very difficult right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward at this time? Okay. Yes.
He's tall.
Good evening. Zach Nuttleman from Craft Axe Throwing LLC. We're located at 1821 N Street. I no longer live in Lincoln, Nebraska, but I still am the elected president of that company. We have based a lot of the values of our company off of the values that we have learned from growing up here in the Midwest, from being based here in churches and schools here. And we have sought to carry those values to other states and try to instill those values into our locations. It has done very well for us. What concerns me is to come back, and if I may speak as, I suppose, a minor leader to yourselves. I only get to lead around 100 people, and you lead a lot more. I find it very important for myself to be not a one-dimensional leader, to not only think about one thing only. I understand you have a lot that you have to think about, not only roads, health, social structure, everything that's going on in this country. But to limit and to restrict the functioning of businesses and the livelihoods that people have attempted to put together off of everything that they have worked for through their lives is very difficult to swallow based off of the values that I was raised on here, where we were free to learn and to thrive and to do our best, and to do our best in accordance with everyone else's needs around us. And I would hope that as leaders, you remain not one-dimensional, but multidimensional, and that you're able to think of every aspect and that consider that economy and health and social structure are all important things, but we must be able to thrive, and we must be able to have love and equality within our communities to be able to build the kind of life that has made Lincoln a wonderful town to live in, a wonderful town where other businesses want to come from other states and live here and employ from here and bring their people here. Because this tax structure is reasonable, the roads are okay, and there are things that get done here, and the needs of the people are looked after. So please, continue to do so, and not neglect the individuals who have given all they have to make a future for themselves and for their families. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward at this moment?
Hello again, Fanshawn Blythe. And I just want the city of Lincoln to know that Officer Mario Herrera is fighting for his life from a bullet wound. And I do not hear a lot from the mayor or the city council. And he is just truly fighting for his life. My daughter's a nurse, soon to probably be engaged to a police officer. And what is happening to our police officers here in Lincoln, Nebraska is not right. We have several good police officers. And I just want the people to know that you can go and donate blood, call, and there are 3 places in Lincoln that you can do that. I called, and I can't even get in till next Saturday, so I want to thank the community for stepping up and donating blood for Mario. But I really would like to see more of our leaders in this community stepping up and just acknowledging what happened here with support for Mario and our police officers.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward? Okay. Seeing none.
We need to go to the Zoom.
There's nobody on the Zoom.
Okay, I move adjournment. And remember the golden rule.
Second.
And moved and seconded by Councilperson Ward. Please call the roll.
Christensen,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
We're adjourned.
Practice empathy.